بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبا القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. This week, brothers and sisters, marked the death anniversary, the shahadat of the best creation, the noble prophet of Islam, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi sallam. As it says in narrations, he has said, Ana wa Ali abawa hadhihi al-ummah. Ali and I are the fathers of this ummah, of this nation, this great nation that was built by the Prophet of Islam. In other narrations, it has that the Prophet of Islam is also a father or is a prophet to other prophets in Alamul Arwah before creation, that the Prophet of Islam was their prophet too. So tonight we are speaking about a figure that is the prophet of prophets, or is the father of all the other prophets, of all the nation, and is even the father of the imams. A person came to Ali ibn Musa Rida alayhi salam and asked him, what does it mean by Abu al-Qasim? Why do we call the prophet Abu al-Qasim? Imam Rida alayhi salam told him he had a son named Qasim who died around at the age of 2, so he became Abu al-Qasim. This narrator, the person asked Imam Rida for some more, give me more meaning to this. Because sometimes the imams would talk to people according to how much ma'rifat and understanding they had. So he told them that Qasimul Nar wal Jannah is Imam Ali alayhi salam. The person that will separate those going to hell and those that are going to heaven is Imam Ali alayhi salam. And therefore Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is his father. Therefore he is Abu al-Qasim al-Jannah wal Nar. Please recite a salawat. So therefore, brothers and sisters, Prophet Muhammad is the father of the ummah, is the father of other prophets, is the father of other imams. And before we begin to elaborate more on tonight, that we want to introduce and to increase our knowledge about the noble prophet of Islam, we have to know that his status and his rank is so high that we cannot truly comprehend it. As it says in other narrations that only 2 people knew the status of the prophet. That is one Allah and the other is Ali ibn Abi Talib. So only 2 people understand who he is. So it's very difficult to speak about such a great personality when we, in this day and age, even though his name is spread everywhere, the name Muhammad is a name that many children have and is a great name to name our kids. It says if a child or a house has the name of Muhammad as one of the kids, that house will have barakat. Or when Imam Sadiq alayhi salam heard this name, that somebody named their child Muhammad, he would slowly repeat the name and humbly bring his face down. Even though this name is very popular today, but unfortunately, the great personality of the Prophet of Islam is very estranged and is unknown. It is our duty, inshallah, to increase our knowledge and our love of the Prophet, and inshallah introduce the true aspects and qualities of rahmatun lil alameen, the mercy on the creation. So tonight, we're going to talk about this quality of the Prophet, which is he is a father of the ummah. And what does it mean that he is a father, and what result can we have? What can we conclude that he is a father of the ummah? When we say father, a father figure in a family, he is very careful of the deen and religion of their family, right? Can a father, a true pious father, just work and attend to his own personal matters while his children are sinning, or his children are becoming unguided or becoming deviated? The Quran says, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nar. Guard yourselves and your family from the fire. So a father figure is responsible for the religion of his family, right? He can't just pray and do his salat while he doesn't care about what happens with his children, what happens to his wife. So this sense of responsibility is also in the Prophet of Islam, that he is the father of the ummah. Therefore the responsibility of deen and religion is also with the Prophet, this great burden. So one of the verses that every time when we look at, so this sense of responsibility to guide people because he is their father, and the same care that a father has for their kids, the Prophet of Islam had it and even more. There's a verse in the Quran that talks about this, that how important was it for the noble Prophet of Islam to guide people. It says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم فلعلك باخئ نفسك على آثارهم إن لم يؤمنوا بهذا الحديث أسفا. As if perhaps you will kill yourself through grief over them if they do not believe in the message. That Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi sallam is ready to kill himself, to die if people aren't guided. This is how serious he took the responsibility of being a father of the ummah. Just as a father, if he sees his sons or children, a'udhu billah, sin, he becomes very upset. He wants to tear himself apart. That is how the Prophet was with everybody. In some of our du'as, because the Prophet of Islam loves for us to be guided so much, it says, وَإِنْ أَدْخَلْتَنِي الْجَنَّةَ فَفِي ذَلِكَ سُرُورُ نَبِيِّكَ. If I enter heaven, this is part of the dua, then if I enter heaven, then the Prophet of Islam will become happy. This is a very clever way for us to pray that we'll get into heaven, because the Prophet of Islam cares so much for us to become happy, for us to reach heaven, that if Allah makes us enter heaven, the Prophet becomes happy. And of course, Allah wants to make the Prophet happy because he is Habibullah. Therefore, we do this dua. We say, if you make me enter heaven, even though I don't deserve it, but we know that the Prophet is a caring father for the ummah, and he wants to make sure that his family, which is us, the nation, enters heaven. And with all this said, on the Day of Judgment, imagine we have this figure that loves us and wants us to be guided and wants us to reach paradise. On the Day of Judgment, when we reach the Prophet of Islam, a person that would kill himself, almost the Quran says, as if he wants to kill himself if we're not misguided. When we come with our sins, when we come with the bad actions that we performed, how will we face the Prophet of Islam? Will we be ashamed? Will we be ashamed of what we did, how we acted on the Day of Judgment when we see him? Because one of the greatest joys in the heaven is seeing the Ahlul Bayt and talking with them. And I imagine one of the biggest pains would be being embarrassed and being ashamed and not bringing your face up. There was one of these sinners that he was very cruel to people and used to steal their property, and what his belongings, the belongings that he had was haram, and what he owned was haram. But he decided to change his life. He lived in Iran. He decided to change his life because he said that he loved Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and said that on the Day of Judgment, when I see Imam Hussein I love Imam Hussein. I don't want to be embarrassed when I see Imam Hussein. So what he did was this. He said that I'm going to go to the office of this great marja. It was Ayatollah Burujerdi during that time. And he goes, sells everything he has, his homes, everything he has, liquidates it, puts it in a briefcase, and goes to Qom. He goes to visit Ayatollah Burujerdi, and when he comes to see this great marja, he comes in front of him, puts his briefcase, and says that my entire life is najis. It's all usurped. I want to become tahir. Basically, I want to die and be resurrected in a way that Imam Hussein alayhi salam, when he sees me, I won't be ashamed. So Ayatollah Burujerdi sees him, he sees this briefcase, he sees this money. He says, okay, go ahead, leave your briefcase and go. It's haram money, go. He knows what to do with it. But he also put his suit on too. He had a suit and said, this is haram too, here. So before this person is leaving, the sinner is leaving, Ayatollah Burujerdi tells him, come back. He wanted to test him. By now he's crying. Ayatollah Burujerdi, this great marja, is crying. He's saying that this person is really sincere. He wants to give all his money to become tahir, to become pure. So he tells him, give me your briefcase and I will give you this money which is halal now. Now start your life anew. Start yourself afresh. This attitude that I don't want to be embarrassed on the day of judgment when I see the Ahlul Bayt, because we will see them. We'll see them before, inshallah. We'll see them during death. I don't want to be embarrassed. Cause this person that after that, he started praying all his salats. He went to Hajj. And they say that when he was about to die, that his master Imam Hussein came to him, because there's narrations that the Ahlul Bayt come to you, and they heard him say, Sallallahu alayki ya Aba Abdullah, and then he passed away. His master Imam Hussein came to him. So if we want our master Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, to come to us, for us not to be ashamed of him, we have to take care of what he cared for the most, which is guidance, which is deen and religion. Once they say that the noble prophet of Islam, there was a Jewish teacher that was teaching the Muslimun how to read and write. And he became sick, so the prophet said, let's come to them. A group of people came to visit this sick Jewish teacher. There, this Jewish teacher was unconscious and woke up and saw the prophet. He told him, become a Muslim. Become a Muslim. And this teacher, he was young. He looked at his parents, and he was embarrassed in front of his parents. He didn't say anything. His parents found out and said that to their son, it's okay, we're not going to prohibit you from becoming a Muslim. If you want to become a Muslim, become a Muslim. So then he says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Then when he says, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, salli ala Muhammad, he passes away. Right there, he passes away. And the Prophet asks for him to be buried in a Muslim cemetery. So the Prophet of Islam, a Jewish teacher that was teaching the Muslims to make sure, as we said, he wants to kill himself. He's in great pain to make sure that everybody is guided. The last breaths of this person, he comes to his aid and to make sure he's a Muslim so that he could be blessed with paradise, inshallah. So that is the first thing that we mention about the Prophet of Islam being a father, is that a father cares for the well-being, spiritual well-being of their children. The second thing that a father has, a quality that a father has, is that he is compassionate. The Messenger of Allah, just how you see a father and maybe his children might mess up, and they might do things over and over and over, and the father forgives them and he is kind with them. The same way, he is very compassionate. Many rulers and kings or people that had power in history, they oppressed their people. They didn't live among their people. A person came to the noble prophet, and because the power of the prophet was successful in terms of his political success, he came to the prophet and he began to lose himself. He couldn't speak right. So the prophet told him, "Hawwan alayka falastu bimalik." Relax, take it easy. I'm not a king. I'm a normal person. In the Battle of Uhud, when they injured the prophet, his tooth, his face became bloody. They asked him, "Why don't you do la'an on these people that have attacked you, the mushrikeen? Curse them. Your dua will be heard. Curse them." This is how Nuh cursed his people. He says, "Inni lam ub'ath la'anan." I have not been sent this message. I have not been sent to la'nat and curse people. وَلَكِنِّي بَعَثْتُ دَاعِيًا وَرَحْمَةً. I have been sent as a mercy and rahmat for the people, not to doom them, even though the other prophets would have cursed their people when the flood of Noah happened. But the Prophet of Islam had that compassion towards his nation, his ummah, that he wanted for them to become guided. Or all the other stories that you heard, how they bothered the Prophet over and over and over. And they chastised him, and he would say, "Allahumma hdi qawmi fa innahum la ya'lamun." They don't know. They don't know. God guide them. He is not sent to curse. He was not sent to chastise people. He was a prophet that was rahmatun lil alameen. So this is the second quality of a father that we say the Prophet Muhammad is our father. He cares about our guidance. Secondly, he cares about us. He has this rahmat. And the third is a father, the pain of their kids. If a child has a pain, their father will have multiple pains. There's a story of a judge who sentenced a father and a son to 100 lashes. And they first took the father and lashed him 100 times. And it's very painful to be lashed. Some people, they pass out after a few lashes. After that, it became the chance of the kid. Now the kid wants to be lashed. Right when the person took the whip and hit the kid, the child, the father started yelling from the pain that he had. "Ow, this hurts." And the hakim, the judge says, "I whipped you 100 times. I whipped your kid once. How come you're in pain?" He says, basically, "You whipped my body 100 times, but now you have whipped my heart, which is my kid." This is the love that parents have for their children, and this is the same love that the Prophet has for us. And that is why when Jibreel comes to take his life, one of the things he asks is, "My ummah, what about my ummah? The shafaat of my ummah. Let me intercede for my ummah." We see that his children, Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, Imam Ali alayhi salam, that the pain of Ashura, the pain of what happened to Imam Hassan or to Sayyidah Fatima or to Imam Ali, this pain was first in the Prophet before it was in the Ma'asumeen. Therefore, the noble Prophet of Islam had the pain of Ashura because it is his own kid, it is his own grandchild. Before Ashura happened, in Mi'raj, when the Prophet they took him up and they told him that we're going to give you 3 tests. If you're going to be a prophet, you're going to have these 3 tests. One is that you'll have poverty, or people will reject you, your life will be in danger. And third, your family will be oppressed. Your family will be hurt. And he accepted this. So the pain of the Ahlul Bayt, all of them, is with the Prophet. And also the pain of every one of us. If we have pain, something happens to us, the Prophet of Islam hears it and knows about it. How the Quran says that these events Allah witnesses these events, and the Prophet and the mu'minun. And Imam Ali ibn Musa al-Rida alayhi salam said, mu'minun here is Ali ibn Abi Talib. Allah, the Prophet, and the mu'minun, the ma'asumeen, the infallibles, who see our actions, and our actions are reported to them. Therefore, if we have pain, if something bad happens to our life, we know that the Prophet of Islam is watching and that inshallah he is doing dua for it to be removed. The last, and this is what I would like to spend a little bit more time on, is this quality of being a father. Is the Prophet of Islam was the father of ubudiyat, of being a servant of Allah. From all the servants of Allah, the peak of it was the Prophet. From all the prophets we had, Prophet Adam, Prophet Noah, Prophet Ibrahim, Prophet Musa, Prophet Isa, the highest and the prophet of the other prophets was this great personality. Therefore, he came to teach us how a father leads by example. He led by example to show that he, with all the great characteristics and all the great blessings that Allah gave him, the first and foremost quality he has is being an Abdullah, a servant of Allah. Don't we say in Salat, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh? He is an abd. First he's an abd, then he's a messenger. He's a servant of Allah. Or we read in the Quran, the brother mentioned in these verses in Surah Taha, that the Prophet used to pray in a way that on his fingers, on his toes of his feet, standing on the toes of his feet. It says, وَكَانَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمْ يَقُومُ عَلَى أَطْرَافِ الْأَصَابِعِ رَجُلَيْهِ, on the toes of his feet standing. It's very painful. And then this verse came, Taha, his name is Taha. مَا أَنزَلْنَا عَلَيْكَ الْقُرْآنَ لِتَشْقَى. We didn't send the Quran to bother you, for it to be mashaqqat for you, for it to be very difficult for you. You don't need to, when you pray, you don't need to be on the toes of your feet. And they asked the Prophet of Islam, they asked him, why do you do this? He said, in the narrations, أَفَلَا أَكُونَ عَبْدًا شَكُورًا. Should I not be a grateful servant? So being an abd, that he would worship Allah not only on his just day and night, but also on the toes of his feet, because he is a true abd of Allah. This brings us to what we want to learn from the Prophet of Islam. What we can take home tonight, inshallah, is that he is a behavioral paradigm for us, and he wants to teach us that the best thing a person can do and his goal in life is to become a servant and to become a slave of God. There's this beautiful narration. You've heard of the hadith of Unwal al-Basri. He was an old person that came to Imam Sadiq alayhi salam around the age of 94, the narrations say. He came to, after learning from different jurists, he wanted to now learn from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, and Imam Sadiq didn't accept him at the beginning. He's a 94-year-old person. That shows you that knowledge and guidance isn't only for the youth. Even if somebody is 94, he can seek knowledge and can seek repentance. He comes to the doors of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, Unwan al-Basri. There he begins to learn things from Imam Sadiq. In this hadith, our ulama recommend to learn it, to act upon it, inshallah. And one of those questions that he asks, and one of those discussions that he has with Imam Sadiq, this 94-year-old person, he asks about what is ubudiyah. What is ubudiyat? And we're saying that the Prophet was an abd. What is it? What is ubudiyat? What is a servant of Allah? What does it comprise of? And Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says that it has three qualities, ubudiyat. It has three things in it. One, أن لا يرى العبد لنفسه فيما قوله الله ملكا. He doesn't take the reality of slavery as three strands. Firstly, a slave does not see ownership for himself of the things that Allah has entrusted to him. An abd, when we say the Prophet is an abd of Allah, means that all the possessions he had, he did not see ownership. Everything would belong to Allah. They asked one of our ulama for advice. Give me advice. He said them this. Remember, inna lillah. We belong to Allah. I myself belong to Allah. Everything I own belongs to Allah. This, if somebody truly believes, many of the difficulties of his life will be fixed. That everything that this person has, one of the problems that in society that exists is jealousy. Jealousy will be fixed because we believe that all those things and those qualities and the possessions that person has belongs to Allah. Allah gave them to him and Allah owns them. That person doesn't have anything. So the first step of ubudiyat when we go home is that we remind ourselves, even though when we say these things, we heard it before, but do we truly believe in it? Because if we truly believed in it, if someone took it away from us, we wouldn't be upset because it belonged to Allah, right? Not like me, I might become upset. They took my shoes, for example, in a place that I was at, I was very upset and it took me time to get over it. But if I truly believe that these belong to Allah and that He will give me more, inshallah. See how our ulama explain this. They say that those things that belong to us are given to us as a test. Just how when you go to give an exam, you have a piece of paper and you fill out the question, you fill out the answers to the questions. That piece of paper is for the test. Do you own that piece of paper? Is that paper yours? It's just for the test. All our possessions that we have, if a person wants to truly be an abd of God, everything we have belongs to Allah. It's just a piece of paper. It's just a test for us. Some will be wealthy, some will be not wealthy, some will be sick, some will be healthy. But this is all these circumstances. It is what Allah puts for us. The second quality of ubudiyat, and we said that the trait that the Prophet of Islam is the father of ubudiyat, being a father of being a slave of Allah, is this. Secondly, a slave does not plan his own affairs. وَلَا يُدَبِّرَ الْعَبْدُ لِنَفْسِهِ تَدْبِيرًا. He doesn't plan his own affairs. Meaning that, not that we don't plan for tomorrow. Of course, we have plans, but we truly don't make it 100% because it can change. Doesn't Imam Ali alayhi salam say, "Araftullah bifasq al-adaim"? All those plans that we had and it got disrupted, that's how I came to know Allah and the rububiyyat of Allah. We plan things we plan to say we want to make a business. We want to have have this occupation when I grow up. I study, I plan, I invest, I have a business plan. Even though I tried hard, and I'm not saying not to try hard, not to plan hard, but at the end it doesn't work out how you wanted it to. Why? Because these are in the hands of Allah. And a abd realizes that at the end, the taqdeer, the final decree will happen from Allah. Sometimes we travel to a certain city and we say we have to be there for this wedding or this funeral or this graduation, but it doesn't happen. We don't become upset because we say all these things belong to Allah. Allah has to make the final decree. So in life, a true abd plans, he prepares, but at the end he waits for that final judgment, final decree to happen. The third quality of an abd is وَجُمْلَةُ اشْتِغَالِهِ فِي مَا أَمَرَهُ تَعَالَى بِهِ وَنَهَاهُ عَنْهُ. He is entirely occupied with what Allah the Exalted has commanded him to do and prohibited him from doing. His entire occupation, what he is worried about, is the command of Allah. A servant of Allah, what does he do? He follows and obeys. A Rabb and Lord, what does he do? He commands. Allah's, I don't want to say job, but what Allah does, He gives commands. A servant like us, we follow. It's that simple. But it's still difficult, right? So this is the third thing that Imam Sadiq says when we say that we want to learn from the life of the Prophet and how he is a father in terms of he is a behavioral, he's a role model for us, and he was a true servant of Allah. he was acting upon exactly with what Allah wanted. And that is what will bring Ridwanullah, inshallah, the happiness of Allah. One of the great ulama, Ayatollah Shah Abadi, said that when a person finds and is a servant of Allah and finds that truly following Allah is his duty, the first thing that comes to that person is that immense joy, that liddat of being an Abdullah. He will get this immense joy that I'm now fulfilling what I have been created for. And that is one of the reasons why we see in society that people are upset, are depressed, because they're not doing what have been created for. One of those is ubudiyat, being a servant. Once a person becomes a servant and sees what's the command now, what is the duty now, what am I supposed to do now? This can include just following and reading the Islamic laws from the Sitoli al-Masail, or in every day, what am I supposed to do right now? Am I supposed to do salat right now, or am I supposed to talk with my parents right now, or am I supposed to attend my kids right now? Finding that duty, that command, this is a quality of a slave of Allah. He's always investigating, always researching, always thinking, what does Allah want me to do right now? Does He want me to speak right now? Or does He want me not to speak right now? Does He want you to listen right now, or does He want you to talk? And this is something that does not come easily, to find out exactly what our duty is. We have to ask Allah, we have to research and consult. But it's something that Allah doesn't show us right away. You're supposed to do this, this, and this is what you're supposed to do. We have to discover it. So this is one of the greatest qualities, is that a person becomes an Abdullah, he begins to follow, and he does things because he wants to fulfill his duty. And he doesn't care about the consequences anymore. He says, this was your duty, and I do it. Sometimes, say with our friends and our family members, we have a pure intention to be kind to them. Sometimes they get upset with us for no reason, but I've fulfilled my duty. Right? We don't feel bad at the end. We say, I have done what I'm supposed to. Because everybody you can't expect everybody to love you, right? Some people might not like you or might like the way that you talk or speak. So when I do things as if it is a duty, I don't care about the consequences anymore. That is what a servant of Allah does. They research and they ask Allah, what is my duty right now? They don't do things because they like it. They don't do things because it's easy. And this, my friends, my brothers and sisters, will solve many of the problems that we have in our own lives. Is that when we have pain and we have difficulty and people come to us and they tell us, it's going to be better, everybody has this pain, but that's not enough for us. We say that our duty in life is to be a servant of Allah, and being a servant itself, to develop yourself, you will have pain. You will have to seek joy. But the difference is a servant of Allah manages their pain, understands their pain. Why is Allah giving me pain? And he discovers true joys, not false joys. That is one of the goals of a servant of Allah, is that they find the command. They're constantly searching for and looking for a command from Allah. So to conclude, brothers and sisters, we said that the Prophet of Islam is our father. And being a father has these characteristics, that he has compassion, he wants to guide us, and that just like his own children, he cares for us. Our pain are his pain. And at the end, that because he is our father, we want to learn from him. And the greatest lesson that we can learn from him is his ubudiyat, being a servant and slave to Allah. And that means from Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, those three qualities, that whatever we own, we don't think is ours, it belongs to Allah. 2, We don't plan things, we assume things can still change, even though we plan things, that the final decree of our plans belongs to Allah. And thirdly, we are is kamala اشتغاله وجملة اشتغاله فيما أمره تعالى وبه ونهاه عن. We're consistently trying to see what our plan, what our command is. What are we supposed to do? What is my duty? If we can dim the lights, inshallah, we do some musibat for the Prophet of Islam. I thank you for attending the majlis of the Prophet of Islam. Inshallah, this majlis will be saved and be accepted by Allah. Please give a salawat. It is the last hours of the Prophet's life. It is time that he is going to say farewell. I want you, my friends, to take yourselves to Medina, and seeing that it is go towards the deathbed of the Prophet. Imagine Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein are there. Sayyid Zainab is there, Kulthum is there, Imam Ali is there, Sayyida Fatima is there. Around the Prophet of Islam, a prophet that his body had become tired for serving, being an abd of God, a slave of Allah, from praying, worshipping, guiding people, having patience. He was tired. That his children are now around him. Pretty soon people will be fighting over power after he passes away. But right now his children are around him, spending time with him. Imagine he takes Imam Hassan, he takes Imam Hussein to smell their breath, to smell their fragrance one last time. There they say the Fatima begins and falls on the Prophet, weeping and crying. But he tells her something. He tells her that you don't need to cry, basically, that you will be one of the first people to join me, that you will soon die, and you will not be alone for too long. Imam Ali alayhi salam is watching all of this. Soon after he passes away, Saqifa will happen. And after that, all the calamity and all the misery of the Ahlul Bayt will start. As the poet, the Mujtahid said, it was not the arrow of Harmala that killed Ali Asghar, the child, the newborn of Imam Hussein. It was the arrow from Saqifa that hit the throat of Ali Asghar. After this, everything gets prepared for the dhulm and the madlumiyat of Imam Ali, of Sayyida Fatima, and Ashura starts being prepared. This dhulm. This poet, this mujtahid, says that it is not the throat of Ali Asghar that this arrow hits from Saqifa. It was the liver, it was the heart of the Prophet that Saqifa hit. All his work that was done, all that work that was done now, a lot of it is going to be wasted. In a narration, the Prophet once saw Sayyida Fatima salamullah alayha, and he began to cry because he knew what was going to happen to her. Because after he passes away, they will attack the home of Sayyida Fatima. And he says, كَأَنِّي بِهَا وَقَدْ دَخَلَ الظُّلْمِ فِي بَيْتَهَا. I am there, as if I am there, when disgrace and lowliness enters the house of Zahra. The same house that the verse of the Quran, fi buyutin, that Allah's exalted name has been remembered over and over. This verse has came for the house of Zahra. Disgrace and humility and fire will approach this house now. And that her honor will be degraded. Her inheritance will be taken. Her ribs will be broken, and her unborn child Muhsin will be aborted and miscarried. That time in this narration, which is from a Sunni source, says she will say, وَهِيَ تُنَادِي يَا مُحَمَّدًا. Sayyida Fatima will say, "O my father, O Muhammad." فَلَا تُجَابْ. Nobody will answer. She will come to the masjid and give a khutbah to all the people of Medina with Quranic references, a beautiful khutbah, and not one person in Medina will stand up to defend her. وَتُغِيثُ فَلَا تُغَاث. She will seek for help from the people of Medina, the people that the Prophet was so kind to, but they will not help her. Sallallahu alayka ya Rasulullah, sallallahu alayka ya Rasulallah, sallallahu alayka ya Rasulallah. I ask you, because of the honor of the noble Prophet of Islam, inshallah, give us ma'rifat of the noble Prophet. Give us love of the Prophet of Islam, inshallah. Give us the ziyarat of Medina, inshallah. Give us the shafa'at of the Prophet, inshallah. Help us find our duties, the commands that Allah has for us, the things that He has prohibited. Help us find those and help us act upon those, inshallah. Those of our family members that have passed away, give them, if this majlis is accepted, inshallah, give them the thawab of this majlis, inshallah. Those that are sick, some people have told me their family members are sick. Because of rahmatun lil alameen, give them, inshallah, shafa, inshallah. Make us of the soldiers and the companions of the 12th Imam, and make us, inshallah, of those that will help his reappearance, and that we will be, inshallah, have a husnul aqibah, and will enter heaven, inshallah. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ahli baytihi tayyibin tahirin salawat.